Here's another reason why you shouldn't get so attached to your paintings. I was just talking about trying to find a loose style and not be so nervous. My whole apparatus just crashed over on me. I think a leg gave out. So my wonderful painting that was on its way to stardom is on the ground. Do you think I can recover from this? Hey everybody, Gary with Learning Plein Air, where we help beginners learn how to plein air paint and make beautiful paintings. We're up here above Cimarron, Colorado on another plein air painting adventure. It's still prime leaf viewing season in Colorado. The fall, it's just amazingly beautiful. So we're up here to show you how I plein air impressionistically paint fall colors. Thanks for joining me. Really looking forward to this one. Wait till you see this scenery. Wow. All right, let's go. Okay, let's take a look at the scene that we have that we're going to paint today. Got the easel all set up, little painting stool, 16 by 20 canvas. Got the paints out and ready. And I'm going to show you a little pro tip here. If you're using a French box easel, always weigh down your easel. Pro tip number one. It's not windy today, but I made the mistake last week of not putting rocks in my easel, and it almost blew over. But you can see just a magnificent scenery. What drew me to this scene was the light and shadow and the contrast between the yellowish orangish aspens and the dark green evergreens. And so I'm going to show you today how I impressionistically paint plein air fall colors. Thanks for joining me. The interesting thing about this painting is we have some visitors with us today, and I'm so glad they could be here. And that is the local herd of cows that has descended upon me here as I begin to paint. There's my lovely wife in the woods reading a book as we paint here. I don't have Millie with me today. I have my wife instead. It's my birthday, so we're up here celebrating. Kids are at home. Cows are in the aspen trees. Got a couple behind me here. I think I'm going to be okay, but I'm a little kind of concerned. What if I get stampeded or something like that? But I think they think that I'm going to feed them or something. But anyway, check out the scenery. It is absolutely glorious, magnificent. All right, let's get to work. All right, here we are in the drawing stage, the very beginning stage, the first stage of my 4-stage process of plein air painting. I'm just using a mix of cad yellow orange, cad yellow medium, and a little alizarin crimson to put on a wash. And the wash is just a very thin layer of terpenoid, and whatever color you really want to use. That's the fun part about a wash. Sometimes you want to use a cool wash, sometimes you want to use a warmer wash. Like today, it's a fall day. The sun is brilliantly shining, and I just want to complement the warm fall colors with a warm wash. And I just do this very quickly because I don't want a brilliant white canvas staring at me in the face, and the white canvas makes it harder to accurately judge colors. So I put a neutral wash on. It's the very first thing I do in the drawing stage. Also in the drawing stage, what I'm looking to accomplish in this painting are the 4 P's. You've heard me talk about this: pieces, placement, proportion, and perspective. I'm going to draw in with my brush the 3 to 5 pieces that I see in the landscape, simplified down into 3 to 5 larger pieces, and then I'm going to work on my perspective in the drawing, my proportions, and my placement of everything in its correct place. And when I have that, I can move on to stage 2, which is the abstract stage. All right, here we go. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is work on my pieces, 3 to 5 larger pieces that I see to simplify the complex landscape before me. Beautiful mountain range in the distance, and so I'm going to lightly sketch that in, just the boundary of it, to give me an idea where it is as a road map. I can change things as I go. All right, so you can see I got my 4 pieces in here. I'll show you where they are. Not sure if you can see my numbers drawn on here, but piece one is the far off distant mountain, which is furthest from me. Piece 2 is basically going to be this evergreen forest right here that is across the lake. Piece 3 is going to be the lake, and piece 4, I'm going to make this left bank over on my left hand side. There's a darkest dark over here, an evergreen tree I've shown my shadows in here. I know where my shadows are back here on the mountains. This may not look like much to you, but for me, this is a great roadmap, and I know exactly how to go into my next stage, the abstract stage. So you just have to do what works for you, but that's what I look. Everything has proper perspective, proportion, and placement. So let's go on to the next stage. I'm ready to go. Here we are in the abstract stage, where I take my big number 12 brush and I fill in the 3 to 5 big pieces as quickly as I can with thin paint. I've got a mixture here of cerulean blue, some alizarin crimson, a little ultramarine blue, some phthalo green, to make a very dark mixture for my darkest darks, my evergreen trees, ponderosa pines that are closest to me here. And again, I'm just going really quickly and in two-dimensional form. I'm just trying to get the right color in the right place, and then I'll worry about modeling it and forming it and making it look a little bit more realistic later on. These tall evergreen trees across from the lake, so much light and shadow going on. It's just really beautiful. But I'm just going to block it in really quick, not trying to make it look like anything. See how quickly I do that? It's just all the shadow color of the evergreens across the lake. I don't know about you, but you know, I've tried to block away my passion to paint at various times in my life, and it's always resurfaced, you know. Somehow God has always brought it back into my life one way or another, and just can't, I've never been able to ignore the passion to paint. I just love it so much. It's a gifting, it's a passion, it's just amazing. I just can't believe that I get to come out here and do this. And I don't know about you, maybe you're just trying to learn to plein air paint for a hobby, or perhaps you have dreams of one day selling your work. Doesn't matter. It's just an amazing, fun thing to do. So I'm just taking my brush right here between my forefingers and my thumb. It's the way I hold it. Sometimes I'll go perpendicular to the canvas. Other times I'll use the very tip of this number 12 brush to kind of just do some finer lines. But I really don't care about detail at this stage. I'm really just trying to block in my big pieces. So just train your eye to see that. And as I said, sometimes I don't look directly at what I'm painting, because if you stare at something too long, you can lose your way. I'll sometimes look beside it, and then out of my peripheral vision, I can see that color a lot easier. So I'm just putting in here a little more greenish color to my puddle, my darkest dark puddle. All right, I'm just trying to start with my darkest darks, these evergreen trees over here across the lake, and then coming out of this marshy area around the lake. You can't see it right now because the cows are in the way, but okay, the next piece that I'm going to get is piece number 1, this furthest highest mountain in the distance. But I've got a mixture of cad red, cobalt blue, and a little bit of greenish mud color that I save. I save a pool of muddy colors. After I'm finished painting and I'm cleaning up my palette at the end of the day, I'll push aside a mud color, and so I want to kind of mute this color down. It's not very strong. It's furthest from me, so I want to show distance and show that perspective by locking in the right value. Magnificence of these mountains. I'm just going very quickly. I think I want this color. I like this color. I like the value of it. It's not value being how dark or light it is. I mean, it's not too dark. It's about the right value. But I'm going to add a little bit more bluish color to it. And as I said, I'm not going to do the whole mountain the same color, because if I look out there, my eye is trained enough by now to see that there's variations in the color of that. So right here on the right side of piece number 1, I do see a little more purplish tint to it. So I've added some alizarin crimson, a little more cobalt blue, to add a little more chroma, a little more color, a little more punch to it. And it is, this side of the mountain is a little closer to me. So it's going to be a little bit darker in value. So I want to show that right away. These mountains are so cool. They kind of look like, I lived in Switzerland for a few years playing pro hockey, and it kind of reminds me of the Swiss mountains a little bit with the jagged edges. But there's something unique about Colorado mountains. You know, I think of cowboy movies and Western movies and the Old West, and see today on the way up here, there's a lot of ranchers and cows and being moved and from pasture to pasture, and just kind of reminds me of a simpler way of life. Nowadays, this world and life has gotten pretty complicated in many ways. I digress. So this is piece number one in the far off distance. I like the value of it. I like how it's looking. You see how I kind of blur the lines, or it isn't paint by numbers for me. It's impressionism. And right now in this stage of the painting, I'm not concerned about coloring within the lines. This is why I paint this way. If I wanted to be a realist, I'd be a little concerned about my painting right now. It's the blurring of the lines and the different colors and the messiness, if you will, planned messiness that kind of excites me about impressionism. The lake in front of me, it has a couple different few colors in it. So we're going to try to get that real quick. The sky is reflecting into the lake. I've talked about water many times before. No need to be afraid of it. It's not that hard to paint. It's just a value and a color. Don't pretend like you're painting water, is my best advice. Don't look at every little wave or you'll get confused quickly with water. Squint your eyes a bit. Just take it slow. Look at it as a big piece of color, or multiple colors. Okay, on the other side of the water, there's shadow colors, different colors on the lake. So I'm going to get those right now. And I've got a mixture of alizarin crimson. I've got some ultramarine blue in there, little yellow ochre. It's kind of a coolish warm color. It looks kind of like that reflected. It's the reflections of the evergreens in the water is what it is. And so it's kind of that muddy, pretty green, muddy looking color. You know what's fun right now is, another reason not to get nervous about water is it's fun to do wet and wet, or wet on wet as it's called, this technique where I've already got wet paint down and I'm making brush strokes that go into the already wet paint. I think the biggest thing is just loosen up a little bit. Don't be so tight. Don't be so nervous. You've heard me say it before, is the more you try to make this look like a masterpiece, probably the harder time you're going to have learning plein air painting. I think the biggest thing that if I could change and go back would be to not be afraid to make mistakes, not be afraid of judgment, what other people might think of my painting, but to not be afraid to experiment, not worry, what people are going to say about your painting. Because then you feel freed up and you can find your style, find your groove, find your technique, do something original, do something amazing. When you're all tight and worried and nervous, it just doesn't work. It's happened to me before when I do commissions for clients. Sometimes there's a lot on the line, a lot of money, a lot of reputation, and the nerves get to you. And sometimes I just get up and walk away because that's not why I paint. It's not the best way to be painting. Well, here's another reason why you shouldn't get so attached to your paintings. I was just talking about trying to find a loose style and not be so nervous. My whole apparatus just crashed over on me. I think a leg gave out. So my wonderful painting that was on its way to stardom is on the ground. Do you think I can recover from this? What will happen next? I don't know. This doesn't look so good. I'm gonna stay positive. All right, see you in a bit. Always bring an extra jar of turpentine. Pro tip number 2. And we got some straw and hay in here. You're gonna know that this is a plein air painting for real because I'm gonna be painting with straw and paint. Well, stuff like that happens. You don't need to worry about it. I mean, that's part of plein air painting. It can be a bummer. I'd be a lot more disappointed if I were 90% finished, I'll tell you that. But luckily the painting wasn't damaged. If anything, I think it helped it. But hey, stuff like that happens. It's all a part of the plein air painting process, and that's why we do this and we don't sit in our boring studio, right? Exciting stuff like this happens. Okay, we're back in action here. You know, when stuff like that happens, you know, it really happens a lot in plein air painting. I could cut that out and not show you that. It's a little bit embarrassing, but it happens, man. What happened was I have a French box Julian easel, and there's knobs that you have to tighten for the legs, and I had one a little bit too loose, and I think the sand just kind of gave way below it. But I've had times where I carry paintings back to the car, back to the truck, and they end up face down in the dirt, and paintings get ruined on the way home, you know, just you do stupid things or stuff happens, and it's just all a part of it. You just have to kind of deal with it, roll with it. I'm back up and running. So I'm working on these shadows over here that are on these smaller evergreen trees to the left of the lake. Okay, we're moving along here. As you can see, we're still in the abstract stage where I'm mostly blocked in, but I'm still trying to find colors, and I'm going to work on this left side area. I know it's bright. I hope you can see the canvas. There's some real brilliant aspens over here that contrast with this dark evergreen, and I'm going to get that right now just using a color of just really cad yellow medium, some cad yellow orange, a little bit of cad yellow light, just all oranges and yellows. These aspen forests are just absolutely brilliant in color right now. Pretty much peak leaf viewing season, as they say here in Colorado. So I've still got my big number 12 brush, lots of paint, and just kind of making some strokes like this to show the aspen forest here. The contrast with that dark evergreen tree that I'll tidy up here in a little bit. But there, that's kind of a good start. I like that. Contrast is what pulls the viewer's eye in. Contrast of light and dark. Contrast of texture. Contrast of edges. Hard edges, soft edges. Contrast of color. So try to mix it up as much as you can in your paintings. Don't be boring. And we'll move on now to, I think, behind this aspen forest here and kind of refine the mountain in the background a little bit. Okay, so now we're working on the aspen trees, the aspen forest behind the dark evergreens across the lake. So they're going to be a bit muted in color, not quite as bright, not quite as much power punch, because they're further off in the distance. So you want to be sure to try to show that with your value. I'm still using my number 12 brush. So these aspen forests, while I can still see them, are not as brilliant in color, but it'll still make a nice contrast to the dark evergreens across the lake. And that's what kind of brought me to this scene, was those real dark, beautiful green, bluish green evergreen trees, and then the power pop of the aspen colors behind them. Just a bright blue Colorado day. Just real beautiful colors. Just doing quick impressionistic strokes. Still leaving myself room to change if I need to. I'm not locked into anything until the very end, but I'm cruising along, so we'll keep going here. I'd ask you to subscribe to the channel if you see some value here and you're liking these paintings and these adventures that we go on. I'll try to put out a video every week or two. I'll be consistent for you. I'm here for beginning plein air painters only, to learn and pursue your passion to paint and make beautiful paintings. So hit the bell. You'll get all my notifications on all my new videos. I'm on Instagram as well, posting these videos and pictures. Starting to do a little bit of Facebook, but if you could subscribe on YouTube, it'd really help me out in my efforts, and love to have you. Just refining far off mountains just a little bit. They're still in haze, still way off in the distance, but just bringing a little more refinement and color to them. They're kind of a bluish, purplish, greenish color. Not much color to them at all, really. Sometimes less is more like that. All right, next I'm going to work on this left evergreen tree a little bit more and refine it. So here we go. It's got a mixture of some midnight black, some phthalo green, and some cad yellow medium. You can mix greens a million different ways. This side of the tree is in shadow, the left side. So I want to show that. Sometimes you can use a palette knife too with a tree, with an evergreen tree like that. And you can kind of do some things like that. So just another technique that you can do. I'm going to use the same mixture, but I'm going to put a little yellow ochre in there, kind of some warmer colors. Maybe just a little bit of cad yellow medium. With greens, you want to kind of keep them, sometimes try to keep them in the same value and not go too dark and too light. Greens are really, really tough, but the light is hitting this right side of the tree. So I'm going to show that. And then what you can do is just get a little more cad yellow medium and cad yellow light, mix it into that puddle, and then where the light is hitting the branches coming out, then you can just kind of try to show some of the light hitting the different needles and the different trees if you want to, different parts of the limbs. Okay, we're going to try something here in the dark evergreen forest across from the lake. There's some beautiful backlighting going on right now because the sun is kind of moving to the right of me, and I want to show it. So some light and shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint over my dark that I had in there a little bit with this lighter greenish mixture to show the backlit part of the trees. And then I'm going to go over that in some dark green that I had originally. And that'll show the light and shadow in those trees. A little bit scary thing to do sometimes, to cover up kind of what you're doing and go a different direction, but that's the artistic license, you know. You can do that. All right, so there's the light portion coming in behind those evergreen trees, and now I'm going to pop that with the dark shadows in those evergreen trees. Kind of a phthalo blue. It's a real bluish green color. I'm going to start to the left of the lake, right here. Just with some thick strokes like that. And you'll be able to see it more. Let me use the palette knife and show you. I've also got some straw in this mixture from when my paints bit the dust, so I've got straw in my paint here, which kind of adds to the value of the painting if you ask me. But I'm just going quickly with the palette knife. See how we have a nice contrast back there of light and shadow by doing that? And I'm going to use, I kind of like the palette knife effect for the top of the evergreens up here. Don't want to overdo it, but quick way of, whoa, that was a big old chunk of straw. Quick way of just getting some real big evergreen trees in there. These trees are just towering to my right. I still can go back and play with the light a little bit behind those. You can go back and forth and just kind of power pack the light a little bit more. Let's see if this works. Little cad yellow just around the darks in those trees. I like that. And as they're closer to me over here, I can kind of show a little more definition with some cross strokes. Okay, it's looking a little better. Moving right along. Okay, we're going to try to push toward finish here. I've switched to the handheld camera here just so you can kind of see what we have going on. But the scene is changing a little bit, but it's still magnificent. And I'm going to try to head toward finish. And what we're going to work on next here as we pull up to the easel is, and the camera's going to bounce around a little bit more here, but I want to be able to show you what I'm doing. These aspen trees that are closer to me in the forest up there. So I'm just using, I think, I believe this is like a number 8 filbert. And I'm just holding it lightly. And just trying to show where these aspen forests kind of tail up toward the distance. I'm not using full power pack strength. I've got a mixture of cad yellow and some greenish, but it's working for me. The painting's coming together. I like it. There's a good contrast of light and shadow. And as you're watching this, hey, I wanted to mention too, I have a free, private, unlisted video that I'll put a link in the notes for you. But it goes through the drawing stage, the first stage of my painting process, and I go a little bit more in depth with it. So if that's something that would interest you as a beginning plein air painter, go ahead and click that link in the notes. I have it on Instagram. I have it on my YouTube channel here. The link down below in the description, I believe it is, or the notes section. And it'll take you to a page. Just enter your email in, and I'll send you some new stuff whenever I get it, some tips, and you'll get a link to that video, which I think is a great way if you're a new beginner painter. That would be a good place to start with that video, because I go in depth about the 4 P's that I mentioned of the drawing stage and how to accomplish that. All right, still working on these aspens in the far distance. It's just so much fun. I just can't stop, really. Kind of brings up a good point, is when do you stop a painting? You'll learn, you'll kind of know. You don't want to overdo it. Sometimes less is more. I mean, I'm tempted really to put my brush down right now and say goodbye, but I'm just having too much fun, to be honest. And I'm just up here with my wife, kind of enjoying things. And I mean, this is like heaven. I mean, I think I'm in heaven right now. I'm pretty sure I am. So why would I want to put my brush down, right? I always try to look for a contrast of light and shadow. And I can put it right beside the dark. And see, that's just kind of interesting. I'm going to go a little more power here, so I'm just going to go straight cad yellow medium. A little bit of orange in there too. Right there. Sorry, I had the camera down. That was kind of fun. I'll show you that again. Just kind of some pure color brush strokes there. Not really mixing much. Got a big glob on my brush. Okay, it's kind of fun. We're closing. We're getting toward finish. It's looking good. It's a little busy, but you know, there's a lot of aspen forests out there, a lot of action. So as I've taught in previous videos, when you are getting ready to finish, you want to get up, step back, take a look at your painting from far away, look at the values, the shapes, and just kind of decide and ask yourself, have I got all the colors that are out there in the scenery? Is there anything I'm missing? Any mistakes before I kind of close in on finish? And then when you do go for finish, as I said, you want to save a little bit of energy, take a little break, stretch your shoulders, take a deep breath, and don't be tired and lazy when you finish a painting. You know, Sergei Bongart always taught that, a legend in Russian Impressionism that lived over here in America, is that you want to paint energetically and passionately, and put those final 1 or 2 brush strokes on that really make the painting. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so one thing I did was I just put in a few hints of some aspen trunks over here just with my palette knife, just like this, because I'm gonna power pop some aspen trees in front of that evergreen right there. You can kind of see right there. It's the area I'm working on. So that's kind of what I did there. And I'm gonna switch over to my big number 12 brush, and I am going to dip into this mixture of cad yellow light and a little phthalo green, because the aspens over there are just a little bit different color. I'm gonna go ahead and put that right in front of that big evergreen tree as just another color, just another interest factor. Okay, and I'm going to go with a little more just pure cad yellow light, just where the light is hitting those aspens. All right, just like that. Okay, the other thing we need to do is I haven't paid much attention to the water. Got carried away with everything else, so I'm just going to address that right now. Get a little mixture of titanium white, some cerulean blue, because you can kind of see, I'm going to paint it for what it looks like right now. See that? The sun is glaring on it, and the sky is reflecting its color over here in this part of the lake. So I'm going to get that real quick. A little more. It's a very cool color. A little more cerulean blue. Yeah, that's more it right there. And the other color that we have is more of a, it's the evergreens reflecting in the water. Kind of a muddy green color. So I'm going to get that in right here. I'm going to put a little more evergreen color in there, a little more blue color. And let it happen over here as well. There we go. Maybe a little more ultramarine blue in there for this part over here. I want to put a little midnight black in there. I'm just searching at the very end here just for the right color for that. I think I just found it. Yeah, right there. It's just a darker green blue color. Sometimes that midnight black, and if you need a dark color, it actually has a color to it, a tint to it, and that can be the one that helps you out. Just some quick strokes of the palette knife. Just get the paint on there. And it can just help you get the shadows a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing in the light. Grab some of that titanium white and cerulean blue mixture that I had. And then go into the shadow with that. Go into the shadow with the water a little bit. Okay, we're just putting on a few of those finishing strokes we were talking about. I just took a second there to recharge my battery, but I put some reflections in the water there of the aspen trees. The way I did that is I just took my number 8 brush and just came straight down lightly with an orange color. And then I also did some highlights here in the water where the sun is kind of glistening. And I kind of did that by taking my number 12 brush and with some titanium white and cerulean blue, a little bit of cad yellow light, I just lightly just dragged my brush over the surface of the painting. Painting now it's still wet and wet, but it's thick. I'm not using any solvent or anything at all, just pure paint. And so we're gonna do a few more aspen trees over here, and then we're gonna call it good in the final finishing stage. So I'm just dipping in pure cad yellow light and pure cad yellow medium, and I'm just getting a different color. The aspens are kind of popping right here above the hillside, so I want to catch just a different color that's in there quickly, energetically, like I told you. Trying to finish strong. Okay, I'm gonna leave that, and then purplish whitish color, and just kind of put a hint of those aspen trunks in there. Don't want to do it all the same. Use variation. Don't want to make it look monotonous, because that's not the way it appears in nature. Some back here as well. It will just kind of put hints in, not too much. But so far it's coming together. We're almost there. Hang with me. Thanks for joining me. It's been real fun, amazing day. We're just going to kind of go through this real quick and see if I haven't missed anything, but we're getting close to finish here. Okay, I'm going to show you just, there's a reflection there in the lake. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try to show you how we're going to do that. Might be just a nice finishing touch, good way to end the painting. And it's going to be kind of this mixture of orange, cad yellow light. It's just one of these trees that's being lit up in the forest is reflecting into the water. So I just want to show that. And I'm going to turn my brush this way, kind of at an angle, very lightly. And I'm just going to come down, straight down, and hit another one there. And I'm just going to leave that just the way it is. A little bit of a kind of a highlight, shadow color, reflected light, purplish color. It's cobalt blue, titanium white, alizarin crimson. This is going to be it right here, folks. Maybe. I'm having a hard time leaving, can you tell? All right. The finishing phase. I'll show you some close-up brush strokes. A little bit of a core dark blue color there in the evergreen tree. We get the right value in the far off mountain. We got some cool impressionistic aspen colors. The lake is looking real fun with some reflections. Some sunlight dappled on the water there. Came together pretty good. Thanks for joining me, guys. Appreciate it. All right, this is Terry with Learning Plein Air, signing off. Thanks for joining me today. It was real fun, and we'll see you up in the mountains. Nice job. I think my biggest advice as we paint fall colors here, aspens and evergreens, is that just don't be afraid to use pure color. Don't be afraid to use thick paint. This was such a beautiful scenery here today. The light is closing down, but what a day. Look for opportunities for light and shadow. Look for different color variations in the shadow. Look for different colors in the light.